All right, so let me tell you a little story of something I learned back in the day when it came to going to parties. So maybe you've heard the term, we arrived fashionably late, right? Like it's cool to arrive fashionably late to a party. Well, let me let you know that that is not always the case. In fact, that is mostly not going to be the case. And I'll tell you why. This is how I learned this. So this was back in about 2010. And in 2010, I was going out and I was invited to a party with a buddy of mine. We only knew the person who was hosting the party. It was one of his coworkers. And so, of course, we're going to go to this party. We're not going to know anybody. And the party was called for some time in the afternoon. And we showed up and no one was there. So it turned out that we were the first people there. And I guess we were on time, but people just didn't show up yet. So I guess on time meant early. So no one was there, which was fine, whatever. We were talking to the host, my buddy's friend, and hanging out, maybe having a drink. And what ended up happening was very interesting. About every 10 to 15 minutes or so, new people would arrive. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part was as they would arrive, and as we became friendly with all the people who were coming in, by the end of the party, we knew everybody and we were friendly with everybody to the point where we were even introducing people to other people, people that we just met. We looked like we were the hosts of the party. And that was interesting because you never think that there's power in going to an event that early. Well, there is, especially when you don't know anyone there. So it's pretty cool. We didn't do this on purpose. We just kind of discovered it. It was like by the end of it was like the next day. And I was talking to my buddy. We're like, wow, by the end of the party, we were like the life of the party. We knew everyone. We were socializing with everybody. It was so easy because we were there early enough to get in touch and make connections with all of these people. And then I was looking back and I was thinking, imagine if we arrived at that party fashionably late. Imagine we were there maybe like 3 to 4 hours in where everyone's already drinking, everyone's already made friends. Now imagine trying to get inside of this social group when everyone's already been talking and making friends or already know each other. Be really difficult, right? They're already having a good time and now you're just the new person. Maybe that could be interesting to them, but they're already doing their thing. So from then on out, I made a rule. Anytime I was ever to go to a party again where I didn't know a majority of the people, I was going to go on the earlier side because I'd have time to make connections and meet people. And let me tell you, it has worked out for my benefit time and time again. Now, on the other side, I do think, not that you have to do this, but there is something to arriving fashionably late when you already know the people, right? There's something about when you know the whole party, it's your big friend circle, it's your big group, and everyone's there, and you come in an hour later, and it's like, hey, look, this person arrived, it's Trip, hey, what's going on, right? They're excited to see you because it's like, where has he been? What's going on? Why isn't he here yet? And you actually make more of an entrance. Now, by no means am I giving the advice to show up fashionably late. I don't think it really matters when you know people, whatever. If you do, great. If you don't, whatever. But absolutely 100%. If you know you're going into something where you don't know people, arrive early so you can do that. What I mean is so you can make those connections early on as possible. It's a little hack for you. I mean, it's crazy to think that by the end of that night, that first time I did that, literally people thought that that was my place and that was my buddy's place. They thought we lived there just because we were acting like hosts because we were talking, we knew everybody and we were just introducing people to people, which brings me to one of my first tips in no specific order. If you want to be high value at an event or at a party, one of the best things you can do that is actually valuable to people is introduce people to each other. Sometimes that advice might seem counterintuitive. Sometimes you think, well, if I'm talking to a bunch of girls, why would I introduce those girls to other guys? And don't I want more options for myself? And aren't I supposed to make connections? Why would I want to not make a connection with this guy or this girl so another person can? You have to remember is that the value in being the introducer, the person to introduce one person and another person, is so high because they are going to remember that you did that. They are going to know in that moment that you introduced them. Now, there's many ways you can do this. One, it could be a guy-to-guy introduction, right? You're talking to someone and it's your buddy, and then you're talking to another person you just met, and then you realize, hey, they can make a good connection because maybe they can do some work together. And then you say, hey, let me introduce you to somebody. And then you walk over and you bring the person over to introduce them to whoever, and they can make a connection. And if it's a good connection, you better believe they're both going to remember that. Also, because people just don't normally do that. It's just not a thing. People might do that when you're hosting a party. That's a different story. Obviously, that's your job. You're the host. But people don't think to act that way when they're not a host at some sort of event, party, whatever. So keep that in mind for guy-to-guy interactions, also guy-to-girl interactions. If you meet a girl and you're not going to be hitting on her, you're not going to be getting her number for whatever reason, introduce her to one of your guy friends that's single, or introduce the guy to that girl. Make that connection. Your buddy's going to be so happy because the easiest approach in the world is getting introduced to the girl, so you don't have to actually go over there and do it. So you're doing him a massive favor. And of course, you can do that with girl to girl too, right? So introducing a girl to another girl because whatever, they could be friends or they could do business or something like that. The introduction is huge. So you're not only being high value because it's an actual valuable thing to do for people, but also you're just appearing high value and high status because you're a person who's putting people together. The way that I learned this was from a club promoter that I was really good friends with about a decade ago. And he basically gave me this tip because he would do it all the time. He did it with me specifically. He'd introduce me to people all the time, but I'd see him doing it with other people. And he said, man, that's one of the best things that you can do because it's not easy to introduce yourself to a stranger. So the fact that you're doing it with people is huge. Plus, you just look like a leader. Now, I'm going to go backwards chronologically a little bit. Like I said, this is in no specific order. So obviously that's something that is really good to do if you get the chance to do it at a party or an event. And by the way, don't be overwhelmed here. Because I'm giving this advice, that doesn't mean you got to be running around all night introducing people. Just do it a couple times. Even once in a night is pretty awesome. And if you happen to have an opportunity to do it 2 or 3 times, great. Take that opportunity and do it. Now, one of the things you want to do when you're going to a party, especially with talking to girls, because you might be going to a party where you're going to want to meet a girl, get a number, hook up with a girl. A lot of guys will go in there a little bit overwhelmed thinking, oh, I want to get a number from her and her and her. I want to get a number from all of them. This can blow up in your face. And I like for you to be a little bit more careful here and have a little bit of social awareness. So not having social awareness in a situation like this might be trying to get every girl's number at a party when some of them might be friends and then those numbers won't turn into anything because they're all talking to each other and you don't know who knows who and who knows what. So instead, I'm asking you to practice an abundance mindset, to be okay with the fact that it's totally fine to get a number from one girl at the party. Or if it doesn't work out and she just has a boyfriend, then it's fine to go for another girl. But once you get a number, it's like I would call it at that because you don't want to risk having that blow up in your face. So it's better to then just find the girl that you're super interested in and be flirting with her and then moving forward with her. Don't try to do it with every single girl, meaning don't try to get numbers from every single girl. However, with that being said, when you go to a party, I think we're working backwards chronologically here, you want to be talking to everybody. And that's the key. Talk to every single person that you can. Talk to the guys, talk to the girls. This is going to allow, by the way, for introductions, like I said in that one tip, but also it's going to get you on the level with everyone because you're going to look like a leader. You're going to look like the host, even though you might not be the host. And that's going to make you more attractive. And then it's going to be easier for you to then pick the woman that you're actually interested in. Yeah, there might be a cute girl, but then when you talk to her, well, you're going to know she has a boyfriend. Okay. Or you might find out that she's just someone that you're not interested in. You're just not connecting. You don't really like a side of her personality. Who knows? Right? So it's good to talk to everyone, get social, and then from there, zero in on the girl that you're interested in and really lay on the flirting heavy with her. It's okay to be lightly flirty with everybody. Playful flirting is not going to be the end all be all. They're not going to think, wow, this guy's totally hitting on me, but just light flirting, light teasing, asking questions, getting to know people. That's totally fine with everyone. And then from there, you can isolate. So here's some tips for isolating. Once you're talking to the girl that you're interested in, you know she's not married, You know she doesn't have a boyfriend. You guys are hitting it off. Try to make it so you guys go to a different part of the house, the apartment, the bar, wherever the event is. Try to go somewhere else, even if it's just like going into the kitchen to get a drink or going outside to get some air. There is something to be said about spending time with one person in multiple locations. It does this weird psychological thing where it feels like you know them better and you've spent more time with them than you actually have, just because you're connecting with them in literally different locations. Plus, this might be a chance for you to actually physically escalate and maybe even go for a kiss, right? If you end up going to the balcony or going somewhere where no one's really around, you guys are hanging out and you're isolated, this allows for heavier and deeper flirting, obviously getting her number at that point, and then maybe even going for a kiss if it feels like it's right. So isolating is going to be really important once you've zeroed in on that one girl. This next tip goes without being said, but still should be said. I wouldn't go to a party and try to get absolutely trashed. Really tame the drinking. A lot of people like to go to parties. They like to drink a lot. The booze is free and there's a lot of it. And there's a lot of anxiety about being at a party, so you want to drink more. But honestly, that's probably one of the absolute worst places that you can get smashed. Why? Well, let's compare that to a bar. You get drunk at a bar. All right, no big deal. Everyone's kind of getting drunk, doing their thing. You might not know everybody. Go to a party, you get too drunk and you do something stupid or say something stupid. Well, now you're in a social circle of people who know each other. You might get a bad reputation. You might just do something that's not going to look good. So be careful. And I would minimize drinking specifically at those types of events. Also, if there's food, and usually there is at parties and events, dudes, I hate to say this because you should know this. Bring your gum, okay? Usually when you go out to a bar and you're talking to people, you're just drinking. So you don't really have like onion breath or garlic breath or whatever. There's no food around. These parties, that's going to happen. Bring your gum, shove that in the second you're done eating whatever you're eating so your breath is not bad. So there you go. That's some tips for going to a party, going to an event. And if that was kind of a lot for you to take in and you have something coming up soon and you only want to use at least one of those tips, then the first thing I would tell you to do is go into that party and just make light conversation with everybody. A good opening line to talk to men or women is just, hey, what's going on? I haven't met you yet. Because you'd assume that you would maybe eventually meet them because you're at a party and people are at a party, you're socializing and talking to each other. So that is my very favorite line. Hey, what's going on? Haven't met you yet. And then say your name. Just like that.